And then let's switch over to vendor meals. This is a controversial topic. So let's bring the lights down low and let's talk vendor meals.
All right. Things that people forget. This is good. Yeah.
No. I know. Mm-hmm. And I'm Jess, but it actually is a big deal.
Yeah, it actually is a big deal.
I'm saying this lightly, but it really is a big deal because the vendors are working all day.
Yeah.
12 plus hours. They're with you the entire time. Like people need to eat, including your vendors.
Including your vendors. They need to eat or they get hangry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And nobody's going to like that. So even though I kind of teed it up and said vendor meals, who needs a meal?
So I would say anybody who's on site with you for more than 5 hours. It's like a reasonable time. So that's going to be your planner, your photographer, your videographer, DJ or band.
Yep.
Typically your bands will have a writer that tells you exactly what they need,
what their expectations are,
and they may eat at a different time. This could also be like your photo booth attendant, depending how long they're on site. I think I've covered everybody. If I haven't, then I'm sorry. But anyone who's on site with you all day long. Same kind of goes for the morning. Like when your beauty team is there, if you have like a long day of getting ready in the morning and you're going to have breakfast brought in, make sure you bring something in for them as well.
Yeah.
Even though they're not there like later in the day, which is typically what vendor meals we're talking about.
Right.
If they're going to be on site with you for like 6 hours doing hair and makeup, they're probably going to need like a bagel or something too.
Right. Or at least coffee.
Nobody wants a sleepy makeup artist doing your hair and makeup. Those days start
early.
Yeah, man. They do.
Yeah. I've heard you tell me that sometimes, like your schedules, and it's like 6 a.m.
Yeah, sometimes earlier. I've had people start like 5:30.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, so you're providing a vendor meal. What do they eat?
So I will say it is best practice to feed your vendor meals a hot meal. They have been on their feet for 8 to 12 hours. They have most likely not eaten lunch because they have worked right through that alongside you. They are tired and hungry by the time dinner time rolls around. So it is best practice to feed them some kind of hot meal. So whether that be through, if you're having stations or a buffet, they might go through the stations and the buffet, or your caterer might prepare them like some other kind of hot meal. Maybe, I mean, we've seen like a big container of lasagna or, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Your band will have your band is their own beast. They will tell you what they want.
And couples, I can tell you as the husband of a wedding planner, she comes home much happier when she wasn't given a ham sandwich when she doesn't eat ham.
Especially for a vegetarian.
Right. It's exactly. So it really, really is important. It's a hot button issue. And it's something that, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not, I mean, it does affect the budget.
It does affect the budget. But it's not cheap. But at the same time, if you don't want to feed your vendors, then they will typically say, that's fine. I'll take a dinner break. I'm going to leave for an hour. And most likely you do not want them to leave your wedding reception for an hour. And that's why it's generally expected that you feed your vendors, because they can't leave to get dinner. They literally can't leave, because if they leave, they could miss something huge.
Right.
And you don't want that to happen either.
Right. And the timeline is so strict a lot of times.
Yeah. So I would just say budget for it in the beginning. I feel like it's like a good estimate to estimate for around 6 to 8 vendors. As just a general rule, if you're kind of getting those initial numbers. We just talked about catering tasting, so make sure you go back and listen to that. But yeah, I think that's a good rule to kind of budget for.
Okay. And we sort of touched on this a little bit, but when do they eat?
When do they eat? So best practice here is that they eat while the couple's eating. It can sometimes be weird, but when the couple is eating, there's nothing happening because they are eating. So like your photographer is not going to miss any great pictures. Your planner is not going to like miss the cue to get toast going. So that is the best time for all of your vendors to eat. Your band, however, typically eats before the reception. So they might set up and then maybe eat like during cocktail hour, like if they're playing during cocktail hour, maybe an hour before cocktail hour. But yeah. Best time is while the couple is eating. And make sure you work that out. If you don't have a planner, make sure you work that out with your caterer or in-house like venue manager or whoever. because you definitely don't want to finish eating and then you're ready to do toast and you can't do toast because your photographer's just gotten their food.
Right. So I've heard in the industry, in our friend circle and things like that, where, where vendors actually get their food, not where they eat it. We'll talk about that in a second, but where they get their food. Like, so do say it's a buffet or stations. Do the vendors go through the main line with the guests? Is it set aside? Like, what does that typically look like?
It all depends on the caterer. Some caterers, they will eat the buffet food, but their staff will make the food and just like go ahead and have it placed for you. Sometimes they prefer that you go through the buffet. Sometimes they're feeding you something totally different in the back. So it's like a totally different meal that's already set up for you. So it just depends.
So it's a question that if it matters to you, you should ask the caterer.
Correct.
Okay. And then subsequently, where do they eat? Where do the vendors eat?
I would say typically they eat in a separate room that's somewhere close to the festivities. So they're not far away, but they aren't like seated at a guest table. You can put them at a guest table if you wanted, but I think all around, generally, most vendors prefer to have a separate room where they can just kind of, not be on for a second and eat a bite, take a little break. And then I think it's better for the couples too, because they don't have to like seat them with like random people.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. So then.
But I would always ask, and I would ask your venue. That's something that a lot of people don't think about.
Right.
But I would ask, where are my vendors going to eat?
Well, there's so many details space to account for.
Yeah. And it's not something that people should even care about.
It's a hot button issue.
Where they eat?
No. Just vendor meals in general.
Yeah. You should feed your vendors, but where they eat, I think most couples. I mean, that's something that's a small detail that most of the time doesn't really affect the day. If you have a planner, they'll think about those things. If you don't, then at your final walkthrough, just kind of maybe bring that up and make sure It's good for the couple to know, because like, what if they're looking for the photographer? It's good for them to know. Oh yeah, they're just going to be in that room over there eating.
Yeah. Right, because if they just want to have a picture of something random, whatever it is. Yeah.
Then you just go in there and you know where they are and you say, hey, when you have a second, can you come take this picture? My friend's about to leave. Yeah. That happens a lot, actually. Like a wedding, like maybe your older guests are getting ready to leave and you want a picture with them. So it's good to know, like, oh yeah, the photographer's just over there. I'm just going to go snag them. That's a good reason, again, that you don't want your photographer to go out for their dinner break.